why we apply these pratyayas in all the meanings which are covered from whatever sutra that these, for example, let's just concentrate on this sutra. So this sutra is giving us the pratyayas as nay and snay. The prakriti for these pratyayas has been defined stri and punsa. And bhavanat is our uh, limit, limit exterior. Till this time, till whatever sutra is covered under that, which has this word bhavana, which is 521. Anyway, so we had said that from 4187 till 521, whatever meanings are covered in this section, whatever arthas have been given in this section, in all those meanings, for this stri and pusa, the pratyayas that should be enjoined are respectively nay and snay. So if we will just concentrate on this stri, has been given the pratyaya nay. And the biggest adhikar that we have studied till now is apatya artha. So in the meaning of apatya, stri gets a pratyaya nay. But at the same time, in apatya artha, we had also seen we have seen a sutra called stri bhyo dhak. Now the question arises, our sutra is, this is our one sutra which was giving us the pratyaya nay. Our second sutra is stri bhyo dhak. The meaning is apatyartha. So the question now is, which pratyaya should be enjoyed? Do I go with dhak or do I go with nay? The answer to this, of course, is this sutra is going to, actually there is no vipratishedha per se. There is no contradiction between this sutra and this sutra. But both the sutras mention this word stri. So in apatyartha, do I do nay? Do I do dhak? Do I do either of the pratyayas optionally? How do I decide? That was his question, Surya Narayanji's question. Because both of them are in apatyartha, how do I decide? Now, when we have not just in Apnatadhita, anywhere in Ashtadhyayi, in any prakarana, if you ever come with this kind of a question, as a rule of thumb, always ask yourselves, if I apply one particular sutra, is my another sutra becoming redundant? If in our mind we think that there is any contradiction between two sutras, like here, do I apply nay or do I apply dhak? Always ask yourself is, suppose I go ahead with Stribhyo dhak because it is a para sutra, it is a later sutra. Then always ask yourself, because of this choice, is Stri Pusabhyam, is it becoming a redundant sutra, a Vyartha sutra? And once we start asking ourselves such a question, that clears our mind very quickly. Because not a single sutra in Ashtadhyayi is a Vyartha sutra. it is not a redundant sutra. So the point is, suppose I say that because Tribhu Dhak is a Parasutra, and we have that paribhasha where it says that whenever you are in doubt, whenever there is a V pratishedha, the Parasutra should get precedence over the Purva Sutra. The later Sutra should get precedence over the Sutra which comes earlier in the Sutra part. Now, always, if I go with this logic, always the pratyaya that I will choose is Dhak because it is a Parasutra. That would mean that this sutra would become redundant for this word Stri. And therein is the problem. Because no sutra is redundant, no sutra is vyartha. And that is the reason this Stribhyo Dhak is treated not as the word Stri, not this Swarupa, but Stribhya. First of all, Stribhya is in plural. Isn't it? It is Panchami Bahuvachan. So Stribhyaha, here Stri is considered to be the Stri Pratyayas and not the word Stri. So Stribhya Dhak will be applicable to all those words which are ending in Stri Pratyayas. You know those 7 Pratyayas. So if I have any word like Vanita, Sita, Draupadi, which is a Stri Pratyayanta word, a word which is ending in a Stri Pratyaya, in Apatya Artha, I will choose the Pratyaya Dhak. But Stri, this word Stri, if I want to say not as a son of Vinita, a son of Sita, but I want to say a son of a woman, then even though we may think that this word is also ending in a Stri Pratyaya, even then, because of this samarthya, because of this power of this sutra, we are not going with Dhak, we are going with Nay. So this is how, whenever we are in doubt, always ask, this is the first question. Don't go by that paribhasha. That paribhasha is very nice. Purva, para, nitya, apavada, antaranga. That is very nice paribhasha. But before going to the paribhasha, ask yourself, am I going to make with this logic? Is any sutra becoming redundant? And if the answer comes as yes, with this logic, this first sutra, actually I'm never going to use, that means somewhere we are making a mistake. And then start looking for the clues in the sutra itself. And such clues are always given. The very fact that he uses this 3 word in Bahuvachana points not to the Stri word, the word Stri, but it points to the Stri Pratyayanta words. Similarly for Punsa. Now, fortunately for us, this sutra, Stri Punsabhyam, the word Punsa, there is no such confusing sutra anywhere where it is saying, something like Stri Byodha. But because this word Stri in Subanto also, there are a few sutras, it becomes very confusing. That are you talking about Stri Pratyayanta words, or you talking about the word Stri? So always ask this question, and then the answer will present it to yourself. Because once you are clear in our mind that no, somewhere something is wrong. I cannot go with just Purva Para, Purva Para, Purva Para. So this was a good question, Suryanarayan ji. Thank you for asking.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. Good of you.
Yes. Anyone else has any questions? We can take them, or we'll start otherwise. ठीक है. So last time we met, we had seen
Samskritam Bhaksha.
a few meanings
Bhaksha.
other than Pratyartha.
Bhaksha.
तेन रक्तं रागात् नक्षत्रेण युक्तः कालः दृष्टं सामं परिवृतोऽर्थः.
Samskritam Bhaksha we ended on.
Correct. So Sanskritam Bhaksha we had ended at that. So just to remind you all, we are still in the Pratyaya Adhikara of An. So this is a Laghu Siddhanta Kaumudi. Naturally, we are just picking and choosing the sutras here. Wherever we find a Artha Adhikara Sutra, our default Pratyaya is An, like in Drushtam Samam. The default Pratyaya is An, and then below that, we are going to find the Apavadas to An in the meaning of Drushtam Sama. So if we are talking about the Saman which has been seen by the Rishi Vamadeva, then the Pratyayas are not to be, some different Pratyayas have been told to us. So we are not going to do An. So always, whenever we are just reading the Artha Adhikara, without any Pratyaya given, we are going to assume the Pratyaya to be An. So our next sutra, next Artha is Sa Asya Devata. Sa ekvachan prathama, Devata ekvachan, Asya Shashti ekvachan. In all the Artha Adhikaras, the first word is the word which represents who is going to get that particular pratyaya. So Sa is in Prathama ekvachan. So in our Vigraha Vakya, the word which is going to be in Prathama is going to get enjoined with the default pratyaya. And Asya gives us the meaning. So the meaning of the sutra is that word which is in Prathama and which is the name of a god, name of a deity, Sa Devata. Such a word will be enjoined with that pratyaya, and the derivate is going to mean Asya, his. So the derivate is going to give us a word which is going to mean that this deity, or rather this, whatever this is, it is of this god, of this deity. So in a sacrifice, each oblation which has been given in a sacrifice, or even certain mantras which are uttered, they always are, there is always some presiding deity of these oblations or of these mantras. Mantra, if we actually look at that, is where the devotee is showing his devotion to a particular deity. And why do I show my devotion to a particular deity? Because the deity is deserving to get that kind of respect, that kind of adulation. So technically, this particular sutra we use especially for the oblations. In a sacrifice, whatever oblation is given to a particular devata, this sutra basically gives us that primary meaning. But by secondary meaning also, this sutra, same sutra, can be applied to the mantras also, to the hymns. So if there is a havi which is getting an oblation, which is getting given in a sacrifice for Indra, Indraha devata asya iti havi. Our Vigraha Vakya is going to be Indraha asya devata. Indra is the presiding deity of this. Here, this means oblation, a havi or a mantra. When we have this sense, the Prathamanta Pada, which is a name of a devata, that gets whatever pratyaya. Now, in our case, the pratyaya is an. So, Adi Vruddhi, Akara Lopa, the standard prakriya, we get Aindra. So, Aindra, when I say Aindra, I mean this particular thing belongs to the devata called Indra. Now we know that this economy of words is the major thing about sutras. Why didn't Panini make simple sutra like Sasya? He could have made. He could have saved on so many matras here. But he has put that word here to stress the fact that this particular sutra can only be applied if your Prathamantapada, your Prakruti, is a name of a deity. Because there are certain vidhis where a particular oblation is offered not to a devata, not to a deity. Or there can be certain vidhis which are performed where some other non-deity is considered to be the deity of that vidhi. For example, there may be some vidhi where I say Kanya Asya Devata. Can I apply this sutra here in such a case? I am saying that whatever this is, my daughter is its deity. Whatever vidhi I am doing, my Kanya or the daughter is the devata. Can we apply this sutra? And here we are told that this word has been specifically mentioned in the sutra exactly because we don't want this kind of a vigraha, this kind of vigraha vakya being eligible for the pratyaya. So this particular sutra is necessarily for the names of the deities, whether it is Indra or whether it is Shiva, Krishna, or whoever, Vishnu, and not something like Kanya Asya Devata, Drushad Asya Devata, Vriksha Asya Devata. Even though I'm consider that particular tree as a deity, it is not a name of a deity. Secondly, in the entire Tathita section, we have already discussed this point a couple of times. The linga and the vachana that has been mentioned in the sutra is secondary. We are not supposed to get confused with the linga and vachana. So even the sutra mentions devata, sa in feminine, does not mean that we cannot apply this sutra, or rather we have to apply this sutra for those deities which are feminine. So only when I'm talking about Lakshmi and Saraswati, Parvati, only then I can apply this sutra. This confusion is not to be done in this entire section. Panini could have made this sutra also as Saha Asya Devaha. He could have done it. Why did he choose to mention Sa and Devata? That is a different point. But if he has mentioned Devata, or feminine, does not mean that I have to apply this sutra only to the feminine gendered deities. And that's why we have Indra. We can apply this sutra for the masculine as well as the feminine gendered deities. Remember, Sa Asya Devata, if you are talking about a Devata which is ending in Pati, Pati Uttarpada, we have to go back to those original 3 sutras. Just now we discussed. Just now we started that here. Ashwapatyadibhyascha and Pati Ditya Aditya Pati Uttarpadyat. No. So here Pashupatam, we get it with An, but not the Autsargik An, but because Pashupati, this word Pashupati, is mentioned in Ashwapati group. And that's why even though it is Pati Uttarpada, it is not getting Nya, but because it is mentioned in Ashwapatyadi group, it is getting An. But Barhaspatya, this Ya, is because of that Pati Uttarpada. We are enjoying Nya. So these 4-5 sutras that we had studied at the beginning of the section, bear it in your mind. In all these sutras that we are studying, in all these meanings, those 4-5 sutras will bear only those pratyas which have been told to them, and not the pratyas that we are reading now. Okay. Now this is Sahasya Devata. This is a Samanya Sutra where it is just giving us any name of a Devata. Now we are going to see the specific Devatas and the Pratyas dedicated to them. So in the meaning of Sa Asya Devata, if we are talking about the Devata Shukra, then we need to do the Pratyaya Ghan. If we are talking about the Devata Soma, then the Pratyaya to be enjoined is Tyan. if we are talking about the devatas as Vayu, Rutu, Pitru, or Ushas, very specifically. So if I'm talking about Vayuhu asya devata, Rutuhu asya devata, Pita, Pitru. Pitru is mainly our ancestors, forefathers, Menis. So when certain oblations are given for ancestors, and Ushas, the dawn. If we are talking about these particular prakrutis, in the meaning of Sasya Devata, the pratyaya to be enjoined is Yat. Whenever we are doing this Shukradghan, Somatyan, the prakriya is very easy. So I'm just going ahead. If you want me to show the prakriya, we will go ahead and do, or otherwise we'll skip it. We'll just discuss the prakriya for Pitru. If I'm saying that Pitru, my ancestors, Pitarha Devata Asya, the pratyaya to be enjoined is Yat. So if I have Pitru in the meaning of Devata Asya, the pratyaya to be enjoined is Yat. At this point, we have a sutra which gives us the Adesha ring in place of Rukara. So ring replaces Ru. Ring Rutaha. Before we go to this, I'll just write the sutra. Ring Rutaha. And there is an anuvrutti of a sutra which we will study in our Tinganta section next year. There is an anuvrutti of a krut sarvadhatuka yoga. And there is a anuvrutti of yi. There is also an anuvrutti of chod. Krut and sarvadhatuka, these are the names of certain pratyayas. There are certain pratyayas which are called as krut pratyayas. Krut pratyayas are enjoined to a dhatu and the resultant becomes a pratipadika. So from a dhatu, we are creating a noun. To do that, we add these pratyayas called kruts. And then there are certain pratyayas which are enjoined to dhatus, which get this technical term called sarvadhatuka. We will study that next year, don't worry. And then there are certain pratyayas which are called as chwi. Chwi pratyayas also have this, when something is not there and then it becomes, for example, something was not white earlier and now it has become white. So it has become something which was not earlier. This kind of a feeling, this kind of a meaning, if I want to bring out, we enjoin this pratyaya called chwi. Shukli karoti is a typical example of chui. Shukli karoti has the meaning that whatever vastra, that cloth or whatever, was not white earlier, but now it is getting made white. In that sense, this particular pratyaya called chvi is added. For krut and sarvadhatuka, there is a negation. So when I have a non-krut pratyaya following or a non-sarvadhatuka pratyaya following, or if there is a chvi kind of a pratyaya following, and how is this pratyaya? It is beginning with a yakar. So all the krut pratyayas, they are barred from this particular vidhi. All the sarvadhatuka pratyayas, they are barred. And the chvi pratyayas, which are, these are barred, sorry. There is only a negation for krut and sarvadhatuka. So pratyayas which are not kruts, which are not sarvadhatukas, huge section of pratyayas, if we look at it. And also the pratyaya called chvi, which are ya adi pratyayas. When such a yakar adi pratyaya following a rukaranta anga. So anga is ending in ru, getting followed by yakar adi pratyaya, which is akrut sarvadhatuka or chvi. Then what is happening? This is the adesha. R gets the adesha ring. The R is changed to ring. I like this sutra because here we can revise a lot of stuff we had studied earlier and we always forget. We had studied a few sutras which told us how the substitution should be done. And the sutra always, we always do the substitution. The first sutra was alo antyasya. That if you have been given a sthani, the substitution is always done on the last al of the sthani. To which there was a apavada, anekalshit sarvasya. That if your adesha is anek al, or it has been marked with shakara as its it, then the entire sthanin gets replaced by the adesha. And to this we had another apavada, exception to exception, called nicha. Nicha Sutra told us that even if your adesha, which is if it is marked with a nakara as its it, even if it is anekal, we do not replace the entire sthanin, but we replace the last varna of the sthanin. So that's why our adesha actually is re. Na is an it, goes away, fair enough. But still our adesha is anek al, repha and ikara. Even if it is anekal, We are not going to replace the entire sthanin because nitcha, if my adesha is marked with a nakara as its it, adesha is to be done only on the andya al of the sthani.
Madam, if I may say something
Please.
to elaborate. You see, when Professor Rishit Desai was taking the Shakha declension, he brought Anang. He brought Anang. And he also explained at the same time that because it is Nitya, An will remain and Shakhan will be there. Something like that it came about. Just want to inform the people.
Correct. Yes, that's great. That's great. So, yeah, no, because many times what happens is when we study all these Adesha Sutras and Agama Sutras, we begin our year with that, and by the time we reach this, we forget those sutras. But good. You remember that Sakha, so excellent. So, very similar thing is happening here because our Adesha is a Nit Adesha, only the Antya Al is going to get replaced. So our Pit Ru, this is what our Pitru was, getting followed by a Pratyaya which has beginning with a Yakara, and this is a Tadhita Pratyaya. So it is not a Krut Pratyaya, it is not a Sarvadhatuka Pratyaya. So that negation is out of the window. I don't have to worry about the negation. So our Antya Al gets replaced by Re, long Re. So we have Pitri, Yat, now we are in, because it is Yakar Adi Bho, so our E is going to get elided and we get Pitriya. So if we are talking about a particular oblation of who's residing, now technically Pitrus are not the Devatas. Our ancestors are not the Devatas. They are not the names of the Devata. So by Sa Asya Devata, we actually cannot apply. Isn't it? So that's why this sutra has been made that, Sa Asya, or rather here Sa cannot be brought. We have to do the Linga Parinama. But Asya, that Pita, that the ancestors are the presiding whatever of this oblation. They are the ones who have the right to this oblation. In this meaning, we are doing the Pratyaya. And we get Pitriam. Vayu, simple, Vayavya. Rutu, Rutavya. Ushas, Ushasyam. So if they are the ones who have right to certain oblations, we do the Pratyaya. Now our next sutra, very interesting. Here Panini has just given us the ready-made forms. When we have quite a few sutras where Panini himself does all the prakriya and he gives us the forms without telling us what is the prakriti, what pratyaya should be enjoined to it, if there is any other prakriya to be followed. He doesn't tell us. He just gives us the ready-made forms. Such ready-made forms are called as nipatanas. So such sutras where ready-made forms have been given are called as Nipatana Sutras. So Pitruvya, Matula, Matamaha and Pitamaha. These are the forms which he gives us. He is not giving us the Prakriti Pratyaya Vibhag at all. He is not giving us the Artha. He is not giving us the Prakriti. And he is not giving us the Pratyayas also. Interesting because Katyayana tries to give us the Prakriti and Pratyaya and Artha for these words. It is in Mahabhashya we have a discussion where there are a number of Vartikas where he tries to give us different Pratyayas. That Panini has come up with this Pitruvya word with the Pratyaya called Vyat in the meaning of Bhrata, in the meaning of brother. So Pitruvya is Pitu Bhrata, Pituhu Bhrata. Matula, Matuhu Bhrata, brother of a mother. He gives us the pratyaya is Dulach. Mata Maho, Pituhu, Matuhu Pita. And Katyayana gives us the pratyaya Damahalach, Damahach, I'm sorry, Damahach. And Pitamaha, Pituhu Pita. So very interesting is, we actually find that the later grammarian is trying to define what has already been made and given to us by coming up with the pratyayas. Now, where did Katyayana get these pratyayas? Possible from some other grammar system which is there. Quite possible. Yeah? So, in that sense, very interesting. Otherwise, nothing in it. It is just a Nipatana Sutra. But it becomes interesting because Mahabhashya actually discusses this, giving us Vartikas. ठीक है. Next is again Artha Sutra, where the meaning is a group, a collection. So if we are talking about a group of something, so tasya, the word which is getting represented by tasya, is going to get our outsargik an, the default an. And the derivate is going to denote a collection, a group. So kakanam samuha, a group of crows, kakam. Vrukanam samuha, varkam, adivruddhi. Bakanam samuha, bakam. Yeah. Now, whenever we are talking about a collection, a group, in language, a group always gets a neuter gender. So if I'm talking about a group of crows, it will always be kakam and not kakaha, not a pullinga or a strilinga. So it is just a usage in language that whenever a group is getting discussed, it gets the neuter gender. And that's why kakam, varkam. But if I'm talking about a group of women, a group of men, we need to go back to those stripusa, bhayamna, snayaha. So a group of women is going to get strinay and not an. A group of men is going to get snay and not an. And that's why we are going to get straina, sorry. This ण is because of this ne. But if we have a particular word which belongs to the group beginning with bhiksha, then we need to give the pratyaya an. In the meaning of samuha. So, bhiksha, it's a gana. Bhiksha, garbhini, kshetra, karisha, etc., etc., etc. So, if we are talking about any of these words, and if I want to say bhikshanam samuhaha, the pratyaya to be enjoined is an. Why are we increasing that an in the sutra? 36, 37 gave me the artha. An is our outsargik sutra, pratyaya. Immediately next sutra we are telling, but if the word belongs to the bhikshadi gana, do the pratyaya an. What nonsense is happening here? What is the use of using this word an again here? That was understood in Tasya Samuha, we understood an. Immediately next sutra we will understand an. What's the big deal? The big deal is, again, we are going to study a few, not a few, only one sutra, which is an apavada to Tasya Samuha, an. So a later sutra is, we are going to get certain pratyayas like I or thak in this meaning of samuha, which can be applied to the words which belong to the bhikshadi gana. So the word bhiksha itself is actually eligible to get this thak. It should be given the pratyaya thak. Or the second word, garbhini. This should be given the pratyaya ai. So it is the apavada to our outsargik an. So this sutra, Bhikshadibhyo an, is an apavada to all these later sutras. And that's why this word an is mentioned here specifically. That word like bhiksha, in the later sutra, you are going to overthink. I know you are going to overthink. And you are going to think, Are bhiksha should be given the pratyaya thak. I don't want you to give the thak to bhiksha. I don't want you to give I to garbhini. So I am very specifically mentioning that if the word belongs to this particular group, don't apply the parasutras. Give the pratyaya an. So what is the parasutra? We will just very quickly. We will just quickly study the parasutra first, and then we will study the in-between sutras. The parasutra is achitta hasti dhenoho thak. Samoha artha. So if you are talking, if you want your derivative to indicate a collection of things which are insentient, achitta, non-living things, or whatever, we will study this sutra later on. But if you are talking about a group of insentient things, the pratyaya to be given is thak. Bhiksha, alms, is an insentient thing. But don't do thak, because very clearly we have been given that if the word belongs to the Bhikshadi Gana, the pratyaya to be given is an. Do we have any other insentient things in Bhikshadi? Dakshina, Vishaya, Kshetra. So I'm talking about a group of fields. Fields, insentient, non-living thing. So I have a sutra, achetana, achitta. So again, like we started our discussion with, if all these words have already been mentioned, we have been given a Samanya Sutra, achittat. If a group is a non-living, the object is a non-living, then in group artha do thak. Then this sutra, what is the use of including all these dakshina and paddhati and sahasra? Because that is a Samanya Sutra, this is an Apavada Sutra. And that is the reason this Pratyaya An has again been mentioned here. That even though these are non-living things which get covered under that Thakvada Sutra, don't do Thak, do An. And that's why Bhikshanam Samuhaha Bhaiksham. We are not doing Thak. Because Bhiksha has been mentioned into Bhikshadigana. So here we actually have an Apavada Sutra which is before the Samanya Sutra. And that's why I always say that in that Paribhasha, the Purva Para is the shakiest of things. We should come to Purva Para at the end. You try to find out a reason which sutra should get precedence over another sutra. Find out any other reason. If you cannot find any other reason, the last resort is Purva Para. Don't start with Purva Para. This it is a Para Sutra, so I have to apply that. Then we will run into lots of problems in Ashtadhyayi. So Purva Para, if there is a Vipratishedha, if there is a confusion about which sutra to be applied, Purva Para reason is your last weapon. Everything else is failing. Only then, as the last resort, we come to Purva Para. Nothing else is getting applied, we come to Purva Para. And all of us, even I have gone through this, that's why I'm just stressing this, because Purva Para is so easy to understand. No, all the time we try to apply this logic everywhere. Arey, this is a Para Sutra, this should get applied. And then it becomes very confusing. So Purva Para, just forget it for a long time. And if nothing else works, come to Purva Para. Anyway. So that is the reason this An is again mentioned in the sutra. Even though An was our Utsarga, we know An to be applied, but this is Apavada. If the Prakriti is Grama, Jana and Bandhu, in the meaning of Samuha, the Pratyaya to be enjoined is Tal. So if I'm talking about a group of villages, a group of men, a group of bandhu, brothers. The pratyaya to be enjoined is tal. In the meaning of samuha. The pratyaya is tal. La is and it goes away. We come up with gramata, janata, bandhuta. Here, in our first two lectures, not mine, but the first lectures, the introductory lectures that we had gone through, we had seen that to study Ashtadhyayi, there are also a few auxiliary books that we have to study. The Ganapatha and all those things we had seen, in which there was a mention of Linganushasana. Linganushasana is an auxiliary text which gives us the rules for giving the gender to the words. And in that, we have one rule called Talantaha, which tells us that if the word that you have derived is a tal anta, ending in tal, all these words are actually ending in tal. Lakar is in it, fair enough, but it is ending in tal. So if a word is a talanta word, the linga of such word is always a feminine. All talanta words are feminine gendered words. And on the strength of this rule, we apply the feminine pratyayas and we get gramata, janata, bandhuta. So bandhuta means bandhunam samuha. Janata is jananam samuha. Gramata is gramanam samuha. A group of janas is janata. And there is a Vartika which tells us that the same tal pratyaya should be given to gaja and sahaya. Sahaya, a companion, a helper, a friend. Gaja sahayabhyam cheti vaktayam. Cha iti vaktavyam. Cha indicates the stal. And because then it is a talanta, it becomes a feminine, and we get gajata. Gajata would mean a group of elephants. Sahayata, a group of friends. This word we use in Hindi also quite a lot, in the sense of help. With the help of someone, we got the work done. Uski sahayata se. Of course, in that same meaning, we have another sutra, which again gives us tal. But here, by this sutra, sahayata would actually mean a group of friends. Now, coming to our Achitta, Hasti, and Dhenu. Thak. So the pratyaya thak is to be enjoined in the meaning of samuha if we are talking about a group of non-living things, a group of elephants, or a group of cows. Now here, achitta is a very interesting word. I'm again going to leave grammar a little bit. See, even when we are studying grammar, no, we can have a little bit of philosophy. We can actually observe philosophy even in grammar here. How do I say what is an insentient thing? How do I define an achitta? How do I solve this samasa, achitta? Is because whether we go with Sankhya philosophy or we go with Vedanta philosophy, everything in this world has a substratum of, if I go with Vedanta, Kevala Vedanta, everything in this world has a substratum of Brahman. Chetana Brahma Karanatvat. So I also has a substratum in Brahma. A rock also has a substratum in Brahma. Everything is a manifestation of Brahma. So we cannot say achitta. How do I define achitta? How do I know that rock or that lump of clay is achitta when our substratum is the same? And that's why here the Vrittikara has not given this. But if we read Kashika, there the Vrittikara says achitta is avidyamanam chittam. That is the aspashta chetana. The objects where chetana is there, but it is non-perceivable. Versus us, what we call living beings, it is spashta chetana. That chetana shakti, that power is there equally in a rock as well as human beings. But in humans, that chetana is spashta, perceivable. In rocks, it is aspashta. So here, achitta actually means avidyamanam chittam yesham te. Those whose chetana is not perceivable. Such objects should be given the pratyaya thak. I always come up with all these discussions because otherwise this section is very boring, as I keep on saying, because all the time we are just discussing the prakriti pratyaya and artha. Becomes very boring section.
Madam,
But at the
if you
same
don't
time,
mind,
yes,
may I say something
yes,
on this?
of course, go ahead.
No, this is
Of
a
course.
subject which is being discussed in the philosophical circles all over the world.
Yes.
That
Yes.
the inanimate things do not have consciousness. Now, consciousness and conscience, all sorts of things are being mixed up, all right. All the same, what we consider consciousness is a capital C, that is, which is equivalent to Brahman. So,
Correct.
I find that in the good old days, maybe thousands of years ago, our people had thought of this. I really wonder. I
Yes.
really wonder.
Yes.
Thank you, madam.
No,
Thank you.
definitely. See, philosophy, we had a very, very advanced philosophy. There is no doubt about it. It is very difficult to digest that philosophy. That is also another level, uh, I mean, Brahma, it is, how do I define what is Brahma? How do I understand what is Brahma? Impossible to understand it. Too much of thought is required in that. But what you say, yes, I completely agree. Yes. So, as I was saying, I like to discuss these finer points in this section because this is also this is a section where
I
such
also
things
agree
can
that
come
this
out.
makes it more interesting. Other day,
Yes,
you were
yes.
mentioning about the unmarried women, girls having children. then also about Raja, and then a person not born out of a queen. All these things show a lot of thought has gone into these things even those days.
Absolutely. That's why, I mean, this section is where it can become extremely interesting or it can become very dull. It is exactly diametrically opposite. It entirely depends on how we look at this section. This section is so rich in information about that society, about those thought processes of the people who are gone now. But if we miss that point, then this is a very, cut and dry section. So, yeah. Anyway, so now we were at Achitta. We have already discussed the Bhikshadigana. All these Achittas which are there in Bhikshadigana, should be given An and not Thak. Just to remind you all, certain pratyayas, even those pratyayas, they look like Thak or Dhak or whatever, there are adeshas to it, isn't it? Ayaneyi niyaha Phadakachagam pratyayadi. I think I have written that somewhere here. So these pratyayas are always here. A pratyaya beginning with tho, dha, kha, cha, gha. They get these adeshas. And we have studied one more sutra which gives this the adesha for thakara. Thasya ekaha was the sutra. Again, there was a little bit of a discussion, isn't it? This is it only the thakara or is it ayukta thakara? Interesting discussion. Anyway, so thasya kaha gave us the adesha for thakara as ika. But under certain conditions, tha is not getting replaced by ika, but it gets replaced only with a ka. The ka adesha has been told for thak for certain when it comes for certain angas. What are the angas? If the anga, if this tha pratyaya is coming after an anga which is ending in is, us, uk is a pratyahar. So uk pratyahar varnanta words or a word which is ending in a takara. If such words are there, then thak gets the adesha ko. Thasya kaha. So if our anga is ending in is, us, takara, or it is ending in the varna belonging to the up pratyahara, tha gets the adesha ka. So this is an apavada sutra to thasya kaha. So if we are talking about a group of barley, saptu. Saptu is actually what is the word? It is the uh, ground flour of barley. Barley flour, you can say. So if we are saying saptu nam samuhaha, insentient, achitta, it gets thak. Now saktu is ending in uk pratyahara varna. It is ending in ukara. So it is an uganta anga. isn't it? So in such cases, th is not getting replaced with ik, but it is getting replaced by k. And then Adi Vruddhi and all that Ramayan, and we will get Saktuk. So Saktuk is going to mean a group of Saktu. So this is just one sutra where we are given another form, another adesha for thak. Dainuka, Hastika, because Hasti and Dhenu also has been given the adesha pratyaya thak. Now we come to nice sutra. Tad adite, tad veda. Tad adite, tad veda. Here tad is giving us, this is to be treated as Dvitiyanta pada. So, Adhite studies. Veda knows. The derivate is going to mean, is going to be the Visheshana of he who studies that, or he who knows that. Tad Veda, tad adhite, tad Veda. Why this tad has been mentioned twice? Is because the same derivate is going to, we want the same derivate to indicate someone who is still studying, who has not understood everything properly, who is still, in the process of getting there, as well as who is an expert. Both these are going to get given, or are going to get, the derivate is going to indicate both these, someone who is still studying and or someone who is an expert. So if I am talking about someone who is reading, we will go to that, but someone who is reading, someone who is studying Vyakarana is also a Vaiyakarana. Someone who is an expert is also a Vaiyakarana. So this or gets indicated by this double usage of tad. If this tad were not there, then the sutra would mean he who is studying Vyakarana and knows Vyakarana. So only those experts of Vyakarana would have got this word. Vyakarana would mean only those who are experts of Vyakarana, who are still studying Vyakarana. But this is not what is getting, spoken in language. Even the person who is in nursery is called Vaiyakarana. And a person who has done his PhD is also called Vaiyakarana. I like this sutra because I think that this also shows us the mindset of that society. Because here we see that, the mindset was no matter how much knowledge you have, it is never going to be complete. You're always a student. Even if you have reached the level of an expert, you still are a student. So, in my opinion, this sutra actually points to that mindset that, everyone is a student, everyone is a Vaiyakarana. This kind of a Vaiyakarana is going to know a little bit more than this kind of a Vaiyakarana, and yet both of you are still, you're still studying. That knowledge is not complete. So this again, in my opinion, shows that a little bit of philosophy here, that there is nothing called as the penultimate knowledge. It continues, it's a process, never ending process. And this sutra shows us that this is how the society was thinking. That knowledge, or whatever you are studying, whether you are studying it, just started studying 2 days back, versus whether you have been studying it for last 40 years, you don't have the complete knowledge of that subject. So this or is indicated by this second usage of tad. Tad adite tad veda. So whether you are studying it from nursery up to PhD, everyone, and beyond PhD also, that derivate is with the same sutra. Now let's come to Vaiyakarana. How do we derive this word? Vyakaranam adhite, Vyakaranam vetti. He who is studying Vyakarana, he who knows Vyakarana. Before we go to the Vyutpatti of Vaiyakarana, let us just first look at Vyakarana. How do we derive this word? This word is derived with two upasargas, vi, ang. Pru is the dhatu, and apna krut pratyaya called lyut gets enjoined. Lyut usually shows us the instrument. And that's why Vyakarana, the Vyutpatti or the meaning of Vyakarana, is given as Vyakriyante, Vyutpadyante anena. That with which the meanings are understood, are analyzed, are explained. Of this, I'm just going to keep this V a little separate. Some prakriya happens, not interested in that prakriya, and we get akarana. And then we have simple ikoyanachi, and we get va, ikoyanachi, yanadesh, akarana. Remember this. This ya is because of that ikoyanachi happening between ikara and akara. Now this V and ang, I'm not interested in ang. Now this V is a upasarga. Even though it is an upasarga, we never think of it in this way, but these are also padas. Technically, the upasarga also gets a vibhakti. Then this gets an avyaya sodhya, and that's why this vibhakti is elided. So we never see any pratyaya after the upasarga, after the karma pravachaniyas also, because they get the sodhya avyaya, and because they get the sodhya avyaya, the vibhakti which was enjoined to them is elided. Vibhakti goes away, and yet pratyay lope pratyay lakshanam, the lakshana still is there. So our upasarga that we just very nicely enjoin without even looking at whether it is a pada or not pada, this actually is a pada. Why so much of background is because we have this nice sutra. Before we read the sutra, I will just write what the sutra is telling us. The sutra is telling us that if you have a pada which is ending in yakara or vakara, so if you have a pada which is ending in yakara vakara, then you should not do any vruddhi on the vowel which comes after this padanta yakara vakara. That means I have one pada which is ending in yakara. After this yakara, there is some vowel. If you have such a scenario and you are involved in some prakriya because of which vruddhi should be done on the vowel which is coming immediately after this padanta yakara, such a vruddhi should not be done. Do not do that vruddhi. And also, whatever comes before such a padanta yakara vakara, whatever comes before this ya or va, should be augmented by aich. So if I have a padanta yakara, whatever comes before this ya should be enjoined with I. Whatever, if my pada is ending with vakara, whatever comes before this vakara should be enjoined with au. Aich is a pratyahar. Ayauch. So by yatha sankhya, padanta yakara, before whatever comes before this yakara should be enjoined with I. Padanta vakara, whatever comes before vakara should be enjoined with au. So our sutra is telling us two vidhis. It is giving us augmentation to what comes before padanta yakara vakara, and it stops vruddhi on the vowel which comes after padanta yakara vakara. Two operations getting told. Condition is padanta yakara vakara, the ya or va, yakara vakara being at the end of a pada. All right. Quickly, sutra. Na yavabhyam padantabhyam ya yakara vakara which are coming at the end of a padam purvau Anuvritti of Vruddhi. So after Padanta Yakara Vakara, na Vruddhi. Do not do the Vruddhi. And those which are just before such Padanta Yakara Vakara, of them do the augmentation Aich. So no, this is one our operation. Purvau tu tabhyam Aich is second operation, and this is the condition. Padantabhyam yakaravakarabhyam parasya na vruddhi, and whatever comes before them whom? The padanta yakaravakara. Pramat, Aich, Agamau, Staha. Respectively, get the Aich, Agamau. I and Au. All right, so we were where? We were at V Akarana. This was our Vyakaranam. Vyakaranam adhite vetti va. I do earn. Mathematically, I'm just showing with the bracket and all. It becomes easier this way to understand. Now, because of the sandhi, this ikara is becoming yakara. This is still a pada. V was a pada. Ikara has got changed to yakara. It is just a varna vidhi. Iko yanacha is a varna vidhi. Pada saudhnya does not get affected by varna vidhis. So this vakara yakara, this conjunction of va and ya, this is a pada. How is this pada? This is ending in a yakara. Because of an, taditeshu acham adehe. This is our first vowel of the Prakriti. Because of this an, vruddhi should be done on akarana, on a. So vruddhi was to be done on a. That gets stopped. We are not to be done. The vruddhi is not to be done. And whatever comes before the padanta yakara, whatever comes before the padanta yakara should be augmented with I. Now we have Vaiyakarana. And no vruddhi. Please, no vruddhi. Again, now don't say that, I will do vruddhi on this I. Because once an operation has been barred, it remains barred. No? So, now here the vruddhi would not have mattered because I would have got replaced by I. But that operation of vruddhi is stopped. It remains stopped. And we get Vaiyakarana. This akar will get elided and we get Vaiyakarana. So Vyakaranam adhite vedava. He who knows Vyakarana or he who is studying Vyakarana is a Vaiyakarana. And he would be a Vaiyakarana because he needs to know this sutra. a very long sutra. Usually, I say the longer the sutra, it is easier. There is always an exception to any rule. This is one exception. Very tricky sutra to understand. So if you have a padanta yakara vakara, vruddhi is stopped on the vowel which comes after them, and whatever comes before them gets augmented. Two vidhis, two very separate vidhis. This sutra becomes a little bit difficult to understand because we never think of our upasargas as padas. Point number one. Point number two, we always make a mistake of confusing pada with varna vidhis. If we do a varna vidhi, we forget that it continues to be a pada.
Madam, we had read somewhere Upasarga Kriya Pade, something in a sutra I remember I read somewhere.
Kriya yoge.
Kriya
Upasarga
yoge.
kriya yoge.
Kriya yoge. That means whenever there's an action followed, it gets a pada status. That's what it means now. Am I right?
No. Upasarga kriya yoge is a saudhnya sutra which gives this saudhnya upasarga to the nipat, the pradis.
Acha. I see.
So when the pradis, they come in conjunction with a kriya, then those pradis get the saudhnya upasarga. That is a saudhnya sutra.
Okay.
So we have pradayaha, and then we have upasarga kriya yoge gatishcha. Like this, these three sutras go. So all those 21 pradis that we have, 22, when they come in kriya yoga, they get the saudhnya upasarga. That's all. But we will probably do this avyaya at the end of Subanta Prakarana. You will study avyayas.
No,
so at
I
that
had
time,
read
this
it somewhere.
prakriya that I showed.
I had read it somewhere, but now my understanding is better. Okay, I read it somewhere. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, very quickly, we will also see Nayayika. Nyaya. He who studies this system of Nyaya. Nyaya is another philosophical system. Nyaya does not mean justice. So out of the 6 Astika Darshanas, Nyaya is one of a very prominent Astika Darshana. Beautiful Darshana. Nyaya, again, just like Vyakarana, we need to go right up to the Krut stage. Vyakarana is derived with Ni Upasarga added to the Dhatu In, and it gets the Pratyay Ghai. Prakriya happens, not interested anywhere. We have Ni Aya. This comes down to Ni Aya. And then again here we have the Yan Sandhi. And this is how we have Nyaya. So he who studies Nyaya, same thing is happening here. I have a Padanta Yakara. This Yakara is because of this Padani. So Yakara is coming at the end of a Pada. Now for Nyaya, we don't have that sutra in the book, but the Pratyaya in Tad Veda Tad Adhite is Thak. For Vaiyakarana, the Pratyaya was our normal An, but for Nyaya, the Pratyaya which is given is Thak. And Thasye Kaha, so it becomes Ika. So, what are we doing? No Vruddhi. Whatever comes before Yo, Padanta Yakara, is augmented with I. and we get Naiyayika. So Naiyayika is someone who studies Nyaya or who knows Nyaya. So we can have such words like Nairukta. He who studies Nirukta or Ved knows Virukta. Nirukta, the etymology. He who studies Chandas, Vedas, or Chanda Shastra. We will get Chandasa. He who studies and knows. He who studies nahi. Last sutra of this section. Kramadibhyaha vun. In the same meaning. Tadveda tadadite. If the word belongs to this gana called Kramadi gana, the pratyaya to be enjoined is vun. It's a very small, just 5 words in this gana. Krama, pada, shikshaka, krama, pada, shiksha, mimamsa, and saman. He has not given the example of saman. So this kramadi gana is just krama, pada, shiksha, mimamsa, and saman. One who is studying the krama or who knows the krama gets the pratyaya vun. So, kramam adhite, kramam vedva. And here we have a sutra which is not here in this section. We will study this sutra in Krudanta section. I'll just write the sutra here. Yuvorna. Yuvoho ana akau. The yu and the vu of a pratyaya are given the adeshas ana and akau. So when we have krama, vu gets the adesha ak. And we get kramaka. So kramaka is that person who studies krama or who knows krama. Just very quick. Krama actually is the way of the science or the way of reciting the Vedic hymns. There were very strict, there are very, very strict rules for chanting the Vedic hymns, mainly because not a single varna of the Vedic hymns should be changed. That is the dictum. And that is why the Vedas have come down to us practically unchanged after so many thousands of years. So krama is basically the way of there were these very specific ways of remembering the Vedic hymns with the aim that not a single syllable is changed, whether it is the rasva becoming dirgha, kakara becoming khakara, all that, nothing should be changed. So there were, 8 different types of recitation, which was aimed to hone the memory of these students. Jata, mala, shikha, lekha, dhvajo, dando, ratho, ghanaha. Just the way of recitations. Where Ghanapatha is supposed to be the most difficult way of reciting the Vedic chants, Vedic hymns. But the aim of all these kramas is mainly so that the hymn is memorized to the T, so that the next generation is not going to get a corrupt Vedic part, a corrupt hymn. So here krama basically means that science of recitation of Vedas. Pada, padam adite, vettiva. Again, this is about the Vedas. The person who reads or understands the pada part of the Vedic hymns is a padakaha. Shiksha is another Vedanga, the phonetics. The one who reads and understands the phonetics is a Shikshaka. Mimamsaka, one who reads Tadveda Tadadite, Mimamsa. Mimamsa is another philosophical school. So Mimamsaka is the one who reads and or is an expert of that science of Mimamsa. For all these, the pratyaya to be enjoined is one. So that with that we have finished another adhikara called Raktadi adhikara. Any questions? All right. Okay, so we will meet next week.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.